Welcome to Paradise in the Pines, a podcast about the people, places, and stories that make this the home of American golf. Brought to you by the Pinehurst, Southern Pines, Aberdeen Area Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Paradise in the Pines. I'm Phil Wurz, President and CEO with the Pinehurst, Southern Pines, Aberdeen Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. And we're really pleased today to have as our guest Dan Van Horn, founder and president of U.S. Kids Golf. Dan, welcome to Paradise in the Pines.
Thank you, Phil. Nice to be with you today.
And we are so appreciative of what everything U.S. Kids has done, not just for your organization, but for this destination as a tourism entity for Moore County. 19 years, I think you guys are getting ready to celebrate as we record this, getting in ready to get into the U.S. Open and the summer of 2024. First of all, thank you so much for everything you do for the destination, and talk about U.S. Kids in general for people that don't know anything about it.
Well, U.S. Kids Golf was a dream that I had trying to get my children into playing golf, and it started back in the mid-'90s. And I started having smaller kids and wanting to get them started. So I looked at the equipment. I was really astonished. What we were doing back then was just taking adult equipment and cutting it down and giving it to our kids. And there was no sense of size, how should I fit a child, that kind of thing. So being an engineer, I was able to look at the equipment and say, what can we do to lighten the load here? And I was influenced by baseball, because I saw the lighter weight bats that were coming into baseball. And I thought, why don't we look at the equipment and get it right for the kids? So the dream began with equipment, and then it spread. If you think about youth sports, you need more than equipment to get going. You need games, you need tournaments, our equivalent of it in golf. So in the year 2000, I started with one tournament, which became our World Championships, and it was started back in Jekyll Island, and it's the one that has moved here and been here for 19 years. So we're really happy to be here.
And if you don't know Dan Van Horn, just doing some background, you mentioned that you're an engineer, you're from Arkansas, and you haven't been in the golf industry your whole life. This was really kind of, I think for me, having 4 different careers, that, it's never too late. So you didn't find U.S. Kids or come up with that until you were almost 40 years old. So talk about, the transition from what you were doing before to, the idea and the genesis of what became U.S. Kids Golf.
Well, I was 39 years old, and back in 91, 92, we had the savings and loan crisis. I had a business, a women's accessory business that my wife had talked me into to doing, that I had done for 10 years that was very successful, but trying to keep up with women's fashion is so difficult. So I wasn't really happy with it. But I'd made some money, and I went on the sideline. I was 39 at the time. I read a lot of stories now about men like me having a midlife crisis and thinking about, okay, what's really life about? And for me, I went out on a park bench and asked the man up above what to do, and I heard golf. And so the second day I went back and said, what do you want me to do? And I heard golf again. I didn't hear kids golf, but I heard golf. And so that took me on about a 5-year journey into trying to figure out what to do with my career.
Yeah.
And I had a very supportive wife, and we were starting to have kids, so she helped me. She's a flight attendant with American Airlines, and so I had a steady base of income. But it took me 5 years.
And flight privileges.
Yeah, and flight privileges. Yeah, I had to go. I went to China, or at least to Taiwan five times 1 year.
Nice.
So, but anyway, I had a supported structure, and I have a spouse who's saying, okay, let's take the risk. So a lot of people don't know how difficult it is to start an equipment business. I recently have read a book about Phil Knight, who started Nike, about the difficulties of carrying inventory and growing inventory.
Yeah.
And the same thing is true with equipment. We had to grow inventory, but then you had to put it back into buying more inventory and pay tax as you go along. So the cash flow parts of getting the dream started was really difficult. And a lot of people don't look back at it and say, oh gosh, I see what it's about, but it was.
With the equipment, you talk about the barriers to entry for different sports, because some kids can't play because it's too expensive, registration, equipment, things like that. Yeah. With golf, it's interesting because as I was listening to some previous podcasts you had done, you talk about this equipment for kids, and I'm like, well, just think about clothing. If you're 6, 7 years old, then you got to buy more clothes, and they grow.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to fit them with adult clubs. You want them to fit them. But if you're coming in, I've got a child that's 6, 7 years old. One, do I start them at 6 and 7? Is it best to start them at 8 or 9? And am I going to buy equipment to adjust for that through those years? How does that work?
Well, we have a baby's first club. So if you're walking, you could be putting. So just to be outside with your family. But what's happened is the eBays of the world, or the ability to take used equipment and sell it to somebody else as opposed to keeping it in a garage, has been a really nice part of the business. We also do trade-ins so that people get started. But the original goal was to get a club for $19.99, and back then the cut downs in the display were $10.99, and I was able to bring the club in at $19.99, and then eventually went to $24.99 and $29.
Yeah.
But the cost of the equipment has always been something I've never wanted to make more than it has to be so that people could get in.
What were the challenges for you? Because now it's interesting with COVID, we feared when that happened, it was going to be terrible. We cut back on our budget, and golf was the greatest thing that ever happened to the game of golf. I mean, it exploded. And I remember seeing Michael Wan from the USGA talking about, today, the biggest facets and age groups and demographics that are growing are minorities, kids, and females.
Yeah.
Back when you started US Kids, golf wasn't like it is today. What were some of the challenges to try to get people on board as to your concept and what you wanted to do?
Well, we had impeccable timing back in 1997, because here I was bringing a revolutionary product, and Tiger Woods was his first year winning the Masters by, over 10 strokes.
10, yeah.
So, and one day, about a year later, I'm sitting in an office, and we had a small group. There were only 4 or 5 of us. And I get this phone call, and it's from Tiger's dad.
Wow.
And he's calling in to say, basically, I'm so happy that you're doing this because in taking weight out of the clubs. He said, because now I don't have to do that anymore for my grandchildren.
That's awesome.
So he had done that for Tiger to help him develop and stay in the game himself.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, let's fast forward a little bit here, because this summer we're getting ready for the World Championships, which you started, I believe, in Jekyll Island.
That's right.
So talk about the genesis of the World Championship and how, back then, modest numbers compared to today. Talk about that growth of the World Championship and how it came to be in Pinehurst.
Gosh, this started back in the year 2000, and back then we were doing faxes for entries and checks. We can't even look back that far. But I had this dream, and we went to Jekyll of having this World Championships as an aspirational goal. Think about the drive, tip, and putt. It's aspirational to be able to go to Augusta National. What a great thing. Or to be involved in PGA Junior League. But having a World Championship, why just start with the local event? Baseball had the World Championship that they had Little League World Series.
Williamsport, yeah.
Yeah, so why won't we have something like that in golf?
Yeah.
So that was the idea, is to create something that would be a pinnacle event. And we went out and asked Fox to televise it, and that gave it some hype. And that first year, we were lucky to have 200 people apply and qualify through qualifiers to be able to get there. But it was such an exciting event, and everybody went back and told their friends. The next year, that grew to 500. And then from there, it's grown to the largest tournament in the world.
And between Jekyll Island and coming to Pinehurst, you were in Williamsburg for a few years. I imagine because the numbers grew, you needed more golf courses, right?
Yeah, well, that's exactly happened. We actually feel like that we were off in the desert because we were up there 4 years. But Williamsburg's not that bad of a location, but it's not Pinehurst and the home of American golf, which you have here, and so many opportunities to play. So what's happened is this aspirational event is driving all of our events, and we're having events explode all over the world, all over the United States. So the whole dream, if you think about it, was not to just have one event. The idea was to have local events and more local events, but then to be able to have something to advance to or dream about.
Before you made the transition to Pinehurst, what were those discussions like? How did you approach Pinehurst? What was their initial reception? And obviously, it's been a huge success.
Well, we have a picture of Payne Stewart on the wall. I was given from the director of golf at Jekyll Island, and it had a picture of Payne grabbing that U.S. Open trophy back in 1999. And one of our people who I'd recently hired was walking through it. He goes, well, why don't we go to Pinehurst? And I said, well, I tried Pinehurst a few years ago, but they thought the idea of kids and that it was just too big. That really felt like it was too much for them. Well, that's changed, and a guy named Peter Stillwell is the sales director there, and let me contact him.
Yeah.
So we contacted him. He came up to Williamsburg, watched the event, came back and worked it out so that the people at Pinehurst, I think for them, I mean, as opposed to thinking about it as just an event for them, it really is their give back. The people at Pinehurst, the people at Pine Needles, and all the golf people in the area. It's really a give back to junior golf.
Yeah.
They really don't see what we see all over the world, the aspirational nature to come here to Pinehurst. And that's what's made the event continue to be so successful.
From 200 people at Jekyll Island to, I think most recent numbers were 2,500 kids from all 50 states, 36 countries. Did you ever envision that this event that started so modestly at Jekyll Island would grow to what it is today and probably still has no limit?
Well, we put a limit on it. We really, for instance, 9-year-old boys, the capacity for a course, 18 holes, is somewhere around 156 players in its capacity. I mean, U.S. Open, when it comes here, is going to have 156 players. Right. That's it. That's all you can have. So we didn't want to have 2 9-year-old boys courses so much as we wanted to have the best 9-year-old boys at one course. So we've limited it, and it's become much more exclusive to be able to get here and to play. It's an honor, and it's the dream. It's the ticket. It's the opening up your invitation to be able to come to the Masters. Well, that's what it is.
That's great.
That's
awesome.
That's what it is to come to this for these kids, and you wouldn't believe. I mean, things get posted all over social media about it. I'm going to Pinehurst. They write things on the back of their car and come and yes, all 50 states. Sometimes we miss in Alaska, but maybe one of the others. Last year we had 60 countries. So and we're opening. We're active. Actually, we've become the world's youth golf program in over 40 countries now. So but the dream is still to come to Pinehurst.
How do you manage all that? I think it boggles my mind. Like, how do you organize 2,500 kids? How many different golf courses? So many different days, 2 different weeks. Van Horn Cup. I mean, it's the Parade of Nations. We'll get into that a little bit. I mean, that's phenomenal. I mean, how did, and it runs like a smooth running ship. I mean, it's amazing how operationally sound that is. How much behind the scenes is that a huge challenge to make this work and work effectively?
Well, we have 2 things that really helped our staff. I've been fortunate because of how we manage and work with people to have people who really care about what they're doing and really find themselves supporting the purpose, and they see the joy that it brings families and the impact that they're having in life. I mean, what a good thing to be able to have purpose in what you do. The other thing is that we've been able to have the people here in Pinehurst support the event and come out and volunteer. So the capacity of it is having those 2 elements. The other thing we've done is we've outsourced every event away from a central hub of control. Everything is really controlled at the individual course level. So if the rain delay is happening there, but it's not in a different part, then it's for the tour directors and for the people and the staff there to make their decisions about how to run it. So our whole effort is to outsource, and it's the same thing around the world. Our tournament staff is really 10 or 15 people that we have full-time organizing, but we bring in contractors and people who are associated with us from all around the world to help run the event here.
How much have you seen, say, the demeanor and the skill set of the kids over the years? I mean, I know when I was 9 years old, I was throwing clubs. I was doing really bad stuff. I did. My dad, like, wouldn't say beat me, but like he would send me back to the driving range if I didn't act a certain way on the golf course. But now these kids are like, they've got, agents, maybe PR. They know how to speak on camera. They're just so refined and mature, and their games are impeccable. You watch these kids. I used to live at Longleaf off the fourth hole of Longleaf Golf and Family Club, and I love to, even like every weekend, there's a junior event going on there, it seems like, and just to watch the demeanor of these kids. How much have you seen them grow and change and mature over the years, just based on, I guess, social media and watching TV and seeing their heroes on the PGA Tour?
I think that's the biggest attribute that golf gives kids is the discipline and the value system, just part of the game itself, and so the journey into junior golf, even kids golf in early, is really a whole lifestyle that parents are bringing their kids in, and you see that, and they have to learn the rules, and they have to learn how to have adequate etiquette. So they're not this idea of kids who are running on the greens and right. acting in horseplay. I mean, these little players, they're
mini pros.
They're mini pros. I mean, they're just, as one person said, they're mini Tiger Woods. They just
right.
haven't grown out of their body yet. And they learn the discipline. They're into the game. They watch it on TV. And golf has become cool too.
Yeah.
And at one point in time, it wasn't as cool as it is today, but now people are realizing it's a lifetime sport. Why wouldn't I get started earlier?
And you hit on something very key there. I mean, my dad instilled in me the love of golf and how important it is are these parents and these kids. I see these kids, they're going to be bringing their kids to Pinehurst. It's a generational kind of thing that's going to influence them to come back to this destination for years. I mean, it's how important is that?
Well, I mean, you look at your tournaments. I mean, there'll be over half the field who've played in our events that'll be playing at the US Open coming. And that's been true for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
All the players at the drive, chip, and putt, I think our numbers were 65 out of 80 players are coming through U.S. Kids. And when I say coming through U.S. Kids, what they're doing is they're learning and playing locally and growing their game and then coming here. But we're feeding the whole industry throughout the world with players, young players.
Peter Stillwell, who you mentioned, is a very close relationship to the CVB and the events that he does outside of U.S. Kids we support. He shared a list with me of some of the PGA Tour and former PGA Tour players that came through U.S. Kids, like Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa. In fact, Colin Morikawa was leading the third round of the Masters, and I texted Peter and I said, hey, do you have a picture of Colin when he played here in Pinehurst? Because we'll post that saying, hey, U.S. Kids graduate Colin Morikawa won the Masters and, obviously didn't play as well on Sunday. But he sent me a picture from, I think it was a Van Horn Cup. They had a picture of him on the screen, the big screen there. And they go, how cool is that? I mean, it's funny. You see these kids play, but the list of people that play on the PGA Tour, it had to be 24 or more that played on the tour. Lexi Thompson on the female side. How much pride do you take in that you're instilling this to inspire them to reach the highest of heights?
Again, they're inspirational, aren't they? When you see somebody go all the way through and make it, that's really a beautiful thing. I mean,
do you hear back from them? Do they contact you, or do they want to give back in any way?
I wish we did more. They Alexa Pano, who's in the movie The Short Game, there was a documentary done about the World Championships,
and it's on Netflix, I believe.
Yeah. She has won a tournament now in the LPGA. She's only 19. She says her whole life was impacted by U.S. Kids Golf, and it has been. Every time she goes to an LPGA event, she has to sign balls because what happens is that particular movie about coming here to Pinehurst is really causing a lot of younger kids to say, gosh, this is really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, they remember the pieces of the fence over at one of the courses, and they go, oh yeah, that's where that happened, that kind of thing. And that's what's been beautiful about it. So you see this happening all across the board. Ashtay Bhatia, is that how you say his name? Yeah, he came through it. Cameron Young came through. I mean,
Wow.
there are just so many of them.
That's
me.
awesome.
So when they actually get together, they start talking about, there's so many,
Right.
there's so many, we can't even, keep up with them. Well, we do a count. I mean, like we do it at the U.S. Open and some of the major events, and we'll say how many U.S. kids alumni are they in the field. And that's often over 50%.
Again, we're here with Dan Van Horn, founder and president of U.S. Kids Golf. And we mentioned earlier in this podcast the Parade of Nations, which I believe is the second Tuesday, or the first Tuesday in August. And I got to tell you, it's like the Olympic parade. I mean, it's grown to the point, I think it's the most popular thing during the 2 weeks of the World Championships. And we got some footage of that. Dan's our podcast producer, and we've covered it numerous times. In fact, Golf Channel was here, I believe, last year covering that. Talk about that and how the community embraces that and how much the kids love to play golf, but they love being there with their friends from around the world on this one evening where we really celebrate the game of golf.
Yeah, having something special at the beginning as an opening and getting families to kind of connect and come to it, and not just trying to improve their golf game and out, but to really have a celebration at the beginning.
Yeah.
What we learned was the kids really like to participate in the parade. They really have the joy
They're
of
into
being
it.
in, as opposed to watching everybody else.
Yeah.
And then we found out the parents like the same thing.
Yeah.
So because it's such a celebration of coming here and being here, it's such an achievement to get here. And then the way the town has helped us and supported the parade and roped it off, and the people that are a part of it, it makes it all special. And it's nothing like it for me. I mean, I go through it, I get teared up almost every time. So.
Yeah.
I get to have this horse-drawn carriage to run through it, and I see this sea of people that just kind of explodes. It's hard. I mean, this is the best of Americana, I think.
Yeah. Well, even the other countries, I mean, they love to carry the banner of their name of their country, the flag of their country. Yeah. You see the smiles of the kids, and as you said, the parents, and then the people that line the parade route. I mean, it goes from Carolina Vista all the way through the village. I mean, it's 5-10 people deep. It's just grown to such. I mean, it's like the Olympic parade. It's absolutely awesome, and we really enjoy that. And encourage people to, if you're in town, you live here, you know about it. But if you're in town, first Tuesday in August in the evening in the village, it's a must. See event for sure.
Sure, this year, because the event is August 1st through 3rd, the actual parade itself is a couple days before that. So I think it would be July 30th this year, just because of how the calendar, just FYI.
Awesome. Well, I know we want to talk about your transition because U.S. Kids is based in Atlanta. So you've moved the U.S. Golf Academy at Longleaf Golf and Family Club there. You talk about that facility, and then also the foundation is here. So what made you make the transition to, I mean, obviously with the World Championships being here, but to have Longleaf Golf and Family Club, the Academy and Foundation here now?
Yeah, so in every sport, there's bats, balls, and gloves, then there's games, and then there's something in the middle called development. So if you look at applying that, I never really had a dream just to fix the equipment, although we've fixed the equipment and we're the world's leader in that. But U.S. Kids Golf was started as a for-profit in order to, and I had to be for-profit to be able to buy more inventory, et cetera, and grow. But when I started in the tournament area, I noticed that they were all nonprofits. And so we immediately felt the need to start the U.S. Kids Golf Foundation, especially after the first year of the World Championships, in order to house all of our tournaments. But again, I mentioned in the middle, there's a thing for development. So to do that, we also felt like it needed to be nonprofit, and that's our Coach Institute. So we've gone at it and trying to help train coaches all over the world about how to work with young people and bring them into golf. It really is not a specialty that they've been able to do. The typical golf professional is really good with a high school and above kind of mind. But what we've got in kids, and I say kids, I'm talking about elementary school kids, is it needs to be fun. It's a little more like Montessori school. It's more active, learn by doing. So anyway, we bought Longleaf Golf and Family Club with the idea of understanding what is what's the challenge that a club has in bringing and developing their youth program?
Yeah.
And what's the tension with the membership, the players, they want their course. Do they really want kids kind of out there? And so we've been able through our coaching program to learn from that and to be able to tell. So we've trained over almost 7,000 coaches in 90 countries on what to do with youth.
Grow the game.
And it's been exactly. So when you think about U.S. Kids Golf, we have a foundation, and then we have, which is all about all the tournaments, and we're the world's largest provider of tournaments. I don't know if I told you that, but you
just did
last year over 2,000 events.
Yeah,
in 50 countries. So, and it just started with one, but and then we've trained all these coaches to be able to help do a better job with programs where they are.
One of the ways you'd help grow the game is a long leaf tee system. So really cool, innovative, and you heard Play It Forward, that program as well.
Yeah.
When I was playing, 30 years ago, I could play 7,200 yards. I play 61, 62 now, and I'm totally happy, but I score well. I don't need to go out there and beat myself up.
Yeah.
So, talk about the tee system and how effective that is.
Yeah, we went to Bridgestone Golf, and we said, do you know how far the pro hits the ball in the air? And he goes, yeah. Turned 75.6 yards.
Everybody I know hits it 300 yards. It's like they hit a 210.
Well, this is in the air.
Right.
This is in the air. Well, how about the LPGA? Oh, they're 218.4. I go, what about a 6-iron? They go, well, that's 70% of the driver carry distance. So what we learned was that there's a ratio of how far you hit the ball with how the course should be set up. And we looked at it and we go, well, we ought to be setting it up based on how far somebody can hit the ball, not based on what gender they are, if they're a senior or not. And so we came up with a long leaf tee system, and it starts pretty much at 3,200 yards, then 38, 44, 52, and then it goes right back into traditional yardages. But most people have this idea that they need to play from further back tees because of their ego, when they have more fun when they move forward.
Oh, yeah. You go see people playing number 2, and they're like, hey, I'm playing number 2. I'm playing the U.S. Open course. I'm going to play from the tips. And they go shoot 150, and then they're like, what am I doing? It's like you want to have fun. You want to grow the game. So, play to your skill level.
Yeah, and that having the opportunity. So what we realized that almost, you won't believe this, but almost 40% of the market is now playing in front of what you would call the women's tees.
Wow, did not know that.
40%. That means as an industry, we still haven't grappled with the idea of how being a beginner is and how difficult it is and how the course is in the way. And it's in the way with pace and play as well. Think about it. If you have to hit the extra shot all the time to be able to get to how can you make par?
Right.
So the idea is real simple. Let's start with shorter tees, and then let's move back as the skill develops. And that's been one of those secret things that we've learned about our tournaments, Bill, because we take a 6-year-old, we set the course up so a really good 6-year-old can shoot par. But then as a 7-year-old, he has to play further back. And as an 8, and the same thing is true with girls.
And if you're frustrated, you're just going to give up the game.
Yeah.
So it's like, make it fun, let them make par, get an occasional birdie, get excited. Heck, I remember teaching in China, my midlife crisis, and I had this junior, and 6 weeks into it, she made her first birdie. I was more excited than she was.
Right.
I was like, you just made a birdie. She hit her 7-iron 100 yards every time. Just hit your 7-iron, and she got it close, made the putt, and she was thrilled. I was even more excited.
Well, you can imagine we've had some of the ladies, they haven't experienced getting to a par 5 and 2 in their entire life, hardly getting there in 3. So and they can move back as their game develops, they can move back and play wherever. The point is the pace of play is better, the enjoyment of the game is better, and it just requires people to be thinking about putting in more sets of tees.
Yeah.
So
let's get away from U.S. Kids for a second. We're still going to stay at Longleaf Golf and Family Club. We had a chance one time, I think by happenstance, that we played Bottle Brush. Everybody hears about the Cradle over at Pinehurst Resort, the par 3 course there, at 789 yards of great fun. But Bottle Brush is one of probably the best kept secrets. We did a video on that a couple years ago. But talk about Bottle Brush, awesome par 3 course. I mean, when I lived across the street from there, I played it all the time. It's just a lot of fun. It's take a couple wedges and a putter and just have a blast. And it's not, it's not as packed as a Cradle. So you get the enjoyment and you can play it as much as you want.
We didn't have the space located like Pinehurst did, where they took out the first couple of holes there on 3 and 5 to be able to create that close to the clubhouse. I think the idea is best to be there. But we did have space out on the 14th and 16th, kind of in between. So we took some flat area and made a 6-hole course out of it. And, I mean, it's just tremendous. The longest hole is 100 yards. The shortest hole is 50. We like to say in Moore County, the toughest par 3 is 50 yards at Bottle Brush.
Right.
And I can tell you it's number 5. So go give a hand at it. But it was flat land, and I really asked the shapers to go ahead and create and make it fun. We wanted to make the greens big enough that they weren't just tiny postage stamps. And it was really interesting. The architects, they had this idea that the green should be much smaller. We actually doubled the size, but we also kept the kind of Ross feel and the humps and bumps. And so it's not easy.
No, it's a great time. It's well maintained. I'll be honest with you. It's just in great condition as the golf course itself. In fact, recently we had the North Carolina Golf Panel, which I serve at Longleaf. We had a great day. I hadn't played it since I live in West Spring Pines. I moved from Longleaf a couple of years ago. I admittedly had not played it in a while, but you guys have really upgraded. There was one area because I lived off that 4th hole, that par 3. You have the back-to-back par 3s.
Yeah.
And there was a bridge down there that was kind of falling apart and kind of getting to that teeing area. I mean, you guys did a great job of really enhancing that area. It's beautiful. I did some other amenities and improvements around the golf course that we noticed as panelists. Fabulous job. And the course is in great shape. Absolutely fantastic. So I know people come to Pinehurst, they want to play number 2, number 4, Pine Needles. I mean, they're all great courses. We've got almost 40 golf courses within a 15-mile radius, but you really should make it a point to play Longleaf. I'm obviously doing some promotion for you here, but I truly feel like having played that and had not played it in a couple of years, really stepped up the game there. Not that it wasn't in poor condition at all, but you guys have really raised the bar.
Yeah, it's important for us U.S. kids to stay current, and we brought in Bill Bergen to help us. He has done a beautiful job. It was an original Dan Maples course.
Yeah.
And we really love the horse part of it.
The furlongs
horse track
that are out there,
Yeah, we wanted to keep that. We'll be upgrading that as time goes on. But when you take over a golf course, there's a lot of things that need and a lot of investment that has to be done
all the time,
and it's constant. And it's people don't really know. Everybody laughs a little bit about the high cost of maintaining a golf course. So we've learned how to do it. But again, this goes back to why we were trying to help youth. Because if all the money is being spent on the golf course, how's it being spent on the youth? And so at Longleaf, what it's really about is 500, I don't know if you know this, 500 students, active students in the community come there a year right now.
So 19 years with the World Championships here. What's the future of U.S. kids? What do you envision 10, 15, 20 years from now? What's U.S. kids going to look like?
Well, we have to do more. If you think about the development of youth, the whole thing is in the middle, this coach development, execution of programs, learning how to fit in. When you look at what we've already done, you can really see changes. But when you think about what we've done at Longleaf, you go, oh gosh, there's a real need to do that elsewhere. And that is impact the community and not impact the course. And what we've done is been able to learn and to be able to grow membership.
Yeah.
So anywhere, if you're not growing membership, we've got a formula for it. Everybody goes, well, there's no golfers around here, but they're kids. Well, that's what we started with. We didn't have one single kid. I mean, there were kids in the area, but we didn't have any that were playing golf at Longleaf. I was an old membership. And so the future of U.S. kids golf is the development of youth golf around the world, and particularly in the United States, but around the world. And we'd like to do that here in Pinehurst. We have some things in our mind that we'd like to do. We believe that things can be done to even grow our presence here in the community, and we'd like to do that.
Well, Dan is from Arkansas, is 2017 inductee of the Arkansas Hall of Fame, Sports Hall of Fame. You went to Arkansas. I guess you were there like where Frank Broyles is probably the most famous.
Yeah, he's still coaching.
Nola Richardson. Is he really? Oh, my goodness.
When I was there.
Yeah.
He was still coaching.
Okay.
No, he's not now.
Yeah. So I got to tell you, you're in Arkansas. So Woo Pig Suey, can you do the call?
Yeah. Well, John Daly would be proud, wouldn't he?
Right.
Woo Pig Suey.
There we go.
But you have to do it 3 times, and then you go Razorback at the end.
Well, you beat my Duke Blue Devils in the early '90s in the NCAA championship game, and hopefully Mr. Calipari, now coming to Fayetteville, can maybe make some things happen for you.
Yeah. Arkansas will sneak up on you. There's some money up in Northwest Arkansas,
Right.
And if any of your listeners get a chance to go to Fayetteville, I think it's been voted one of the most popular destinations to go outdoors, and very lovely. A lot like it is here in beautiful Sand Hills.
Well, I know your heart's with Arkansas, but we appreciate everything you do for the home of American golf and for the Pinehurst area. Dan Van Horn, founder and president of U.S. Kids Golf. It's been a pleasure. We could go on. And again, we thank you. Best of luck with the World Championships this year. As you know, the CVB will very much support everything you do now and in the future.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You guys have been beautiful. And
Thanks,
again, thanks to the community.
Thank you very much. Well, that's Dan Van Horn. If you want to learn more about tourism and this beautiful destination known as the Home of American Golf, go to homeofgolf.com. If you want to watch our videos, go to our YouTube channel, which is Home of American Golf. And if you like this podcast, just search Paradise in the Pines, subscribe, and share it with your friends. We'll see you next time.
Well done. Got me rolling.
Yeah.
That's the whole gig.